Hi everyone, Abigail Hall here. Today I would like to talk to you about the world's first postage stamp. These are the trendsetters of philately. They are just little pieces of paper, but what they symbolize changed the world. You see, before postage stamps, posting letters was just too expensive, and it was customary for the receiver of the letter to pay for the cost of postage. They often refused to pay and simply just couldn't afford to. In short, the system didn't work. The postage stamp brought about a uniform lower rate of postage, with the cost being prepaid by the sender. The introduction to prepaid postage brought about a communications revolution. It gave an entire generation a bigger incentive to learn to read and write. It also gave the people the opportunity to stay in touch with their loved ones living in different places. During World War I, letters from loved ones were considered the biggest weapon the Allies had to keeping the morale of the troops in the trenches. They also, over time, opened up international trading relationships, starting the process of globalization as we now know it today. So, let's take a look at these stamps which started the communications revolution. Most people know this one. The famous penny black is the world's first postage stamp, issued in Great Britain, and first valid for the official postage on the 6th of May 1840. This is the stamp which started it all. An interesting fact, because Britain is the first country to issue stamps, they are the only country which doesn't need to include its country name on their stamps. The stamp is considered beautiful by virtue of its classic simplicity, depicting an elegant portrait of the then young Queen Victoria. Although around 68 million were printed, very few survived in the condition of the example featured here. This one beat all the odds. There was no such thing as perforated stamps in the beginning. Postal workers had to separate stamps from the sheet manually with scissors. Few were cut this well with 4 nice and large clear margins. It was never used for its intended purpose of postage. It survived war, floods, and pestilence over the past 180 years without any damage. It has never been folded or creased or mishandled in any way. It still has all its original gum still in place. Because of all of this is the major rarity and worth over £20,000. A used example, though, can be picked up for less than £100, although very fine quality used examples can be worth £300+. A good trivia question this: the second country to issue stamps, and I was surprised to learn this, was Brazil, with the issue of the Bullseye stamp on March the 1st, 1843. Almost 3 years after the penny black. When coming up with the design, Brazil didn't use the Emperor Dom Pedro II, as it wasn't felt right that his image would be subjected to heavy blows on his face from cancellation strikes. To avoid forgeries, they came up with a complex abstract design in the stamp's background. The intricate lathe work needed an advanced machine, which would be almost impossible to forge. Because of this forgery protection, it was decided to run with a simple numeral design with the 30, 60, and 90 Rs. Fewer than 3 million of these 3 denominations were printed, much fewer than the penny black. Most were damaged from usage, and very few mint examples are still available. Switzerland holds the accolade of producing the world's 3rd, 4th, and 5th stamps from 3 areas: the cantons, or states, of Zurich, Geneva, and Basel. The most famous of the 3 Swiss issues is the Barzel Dove, issued on July 1st, 1845. It is most famous because it was the first tricolour produced in the world. It is also the first stamp produced to combine engraving and embossing. It was also the first ever stamp to depict a bird, and certainly would be the top stamp you could ever have in a bird thematic collection. It features a white dove carrying a letter in its beak, and was designed by an architect, Melchior Beret, using black, blue, and crimson colours to a striking effect. It is considered to be one of the most beautiful classical stamps in the world. There were only around 42,000 of these stamps issued, and it is worth more than £10,000 for a top quality example. Surprisingly, the local population were not keen on the design at all, and the stamp was soon withdrawn. It was the only stamp ever issued by the canton of Barzel. The first stamps issued in the USA were the Benjamin Franklin stamps on July 1st, 1847. Franklin had an interesting history with the post. He was appointed Postmaster General in 1753, but was fired in 1774 when it was found out he had been opening mail between English authorities and feeding the correspondence contents to his rebel friends. This became known as the Hutchinson Affair. Despite this, in 1775, when he returned from England, Franklin was named Postmaster General of the independent colonies by the Continental Congress. Originally, it was intended to include President Andrew Jackson, who was recently deceased, on the 5-cent stamp. He was replaced, however, by Franklin's portrait, which is based on artwork by James B. Longacre. It was felt he would be a better choice as a unifying icon in a divided nation because of his role in securing independence for the country. The 5-cent Franklin stamps were issued on the same day as the 10-cent Washington stamps. Mint examples of the Washington stamps are rarer and worth considerably more. A quality mint example of the 5-cent Franklin stamp is worth £5,000 to £6,000. Mauritius was the first member of the British Empire after Britain to issue stamps on September the 21st, 1847. They issued 2 stamps at the same time, the 1-penny orange-red and a deep blue 2-penny stamp. The designs were based on the British stamps at the time, although the engraver Joseph Osmond Bernard produced these somewhat more primitive versions, or some would say they have primitive charm and character. You will see the words post office in the left panel rather than post paid. The story behind this is fascinating, and I don't have time to do it justice in this short video, but it is well worth reading about. The post office Mauritius stamps are amongst the rarest stamps in the world and are of legendary status in the world of philately. Only 500 each were printed from a single printing plate. Many were used on invitations sent out by the governor's wife for a ball she was holding at the weekend. The words post office were quickly changed to the standard post paid, and the story behind these stamps became a philatelic legend. Because they are so rare and famous, they are worth a huge amount of money. They are listed in the Stanley Gibbons catalogue at a price of $1.3 million for the 1-penny and $1.5 million for the 2-penny. France were almost 9 years behind the British in issuing the first stamp, with the series issue on January the 1st, 1849. As a republic, France could not feature a monarch like the penny black. Instead, they went for an effigy of Ceres, the Roman goddess of growing plants, which was meant to symbolize the rise of the newly formed republic. Strangely, the French did not learn from Britain's mistake with the issue of a black stamp. The British penny black was soon replaced with the penny red, when it was discovered a red postage cancellation on a black stamp could be removed, resulting in multiple uses of the same stamp. This was found more difficult with a black cancellation on a red stamp. So the French found the same problem with the black series stamp, and it was replaced the following year. Almost 42 million of the 20-cent black stamp were printed, and they can be purchased in mint condition for under £1,000 still today. Belgium soon followed with their first stamp on July the 1st, 1849. The stamp depicted King Leopold I and were colloquially referred to as the epaulets because of the ornamental shoulder decoration featured on his military uniform. They did not include the country name as they were initially only intended for postal use within Belgium. Despite being very popular, they were soon replaced. They were regarded very highly at the time, and the design was considered the most attractive of any stamp ever issued. Fortunately, many were printed and you can still pick up a decent quality mint example for a few £100s. The last stamp featured is the first stamp issued in Asia and the 10th in the world, and is known as the Sindhudok from India, issued in July 1st, 1852. Surprisingly, they were not issued in Calcutta, as would be expected, which was the capital of British India. Instead, they came from a remote historic region, Sindh, a province of Pakistan. They were like no other stamp at the time, with the design being embossed on red wax. Not surprisingly, they didn't work out, as they broke when letters were opened, and they were soon replaced with a design embossed on white paper. The face value was only ½ anna, and they are one of the rarest stamps in philately. They are notoriously difficult to find in good condition, and there are an abundance of forgeries to be wary of. A used example of this ½ anna scarlet is catalogued at £32,000. I hope you found this brief insight into the world's first postage stamps interesting. If you liked this video, please let me know by liking it below. Watch out for more videos on the fascinating and potentially lucrative world of stamps. If you want any help in building a valuable collection of stamps, or you have a valuable collection and are looking to sell, you can contact us by email at info@justcollecting.com or by phone on 4401534639998. Thank you so much for watching and take care.